Hey there, commercial construction coffee talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction Renovation magazine. This is what it used to look like. We're digital now, but let's see what year this was. This is July 2021. Lachlan Cathey, VP President at JLL, and a nice story, a project that we covered in Nashville. It's always nice holding them in my hands. And let's see what I got in my publisher column. I'm talking about my parents. There's my dad and my uncle back in the furniture days. It was in the furniture magazine, and this old chair that my sister bought. We were known for exceptional upholstery manufacturing, not the junk that you see out there and that people get today. This was made in North Carolina, and this chair is probably like 40 years old. They saw it at a client's house, and they said, "Oh, I got to buy that." That's my partner's family's company or whatever. But that's my dad on the left with the black hair, my uncle Lee on the right. Anyway, I did my retail training after I got out of school. I did my retail training at Levitt's and Scotch guarded a million things, built those little brass tables, the loss leaders in the back of the store, and did merchandising and everything. And so anyway, that's my retail background. But it's fun to see the magazine and some old pics and stuff. Normally I have my picture, but I put my family picture in there. So, listen, today's Thursday, almost the weekend. Once again, it's kind of nice here, in the ATL, the no humidity and it's cooling off, a little nippy at night, but really nice during the day. And I got my Brave shirt on because the playoffs are happening. Looks like we're playing the Filthies from Philadelphia. I'm from Philly, so I can say that. So, and it looks like the D-backs, they're in it too, right? So
Yes, they are.
yeah, so but it looks like it's the Twins won, and the D-backs won, and the Phillies won, and the and so anyway, may the best team win. Now the real game, now the real fun begins. And I just saw a thing that the Phillies have played the Braves the last whatever in the playoffs, and the Braves have lost every time. So hopefully they'll get it, they'll change it, and it'll get done. But anyway, congrats to all the baseball guys. It's October, and time to elevate it, and get into the World Series and see who's going to bring home the trophy. And on the women's side, can't forget about the women. Now you got the WNBA. You got the Las Vegas Aces against the New York Liberty, the two best teams in the league, and it should be great. I sat next to a guy that actually worked for the WNBA with sports and news on my way back when I was on the road last week from Detroit to New York. And we were talking about the NBA. Anyway, I just emailed him. I said, "Hey, I want to get you on my podcast. You'd be great to have on there." And he came back. He goes, "Yeah, let's do it in November." So I was like, "Wow." I didn't think he was going to read my notes. So with that said, listen, got a gentleman out in the great state of Arizona. His name is Johnathan Meade. He's an engineering firm. And once again, his publicist sent me a PR piece, and I liked the topic, and that's how Johnathan got on here. So Johnathan, say hello to our listeners out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk.
Hey, hello, everybody. I'm Johnathan Meade. I'm based out of Phoenix, Arizona. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Meade Engineering. We focus on electrical engineering specifically, with other types of engineerings in the future. And I'm happy to be here and tell you a little bit about me and my story and this really interesting topic about the 13th floor today with David.
Yeah, well, that was actually that's what that caught my eye, is that there's this mysterious stigma about the 13th floor in buildings. Now, I grew up in New York, so I've been plenty of buildings. Our building did not have a 13th floor. It goes 12, 14, on the elevator buttons. Some of them do, some of them don't. But there's a whole, there's a reason why it happened. So I thought, wow, I've never had this topic, so we can talk about this, plus, engineering and all that good stuff. So and I hope you guys will enjoy it, because I thought I didn't really know about it until I read the press release. So I was like, okay, we're going to do this. So the way this works is, John, is we're going to do it in three parts. You're going to tell your story, where you grew up, where you went to school, brothers, sisters, dogs, cats, sons, daughters, whatever, and how you ended up, at Meade. And then we'll talk about the last 3 years of the roller coaster that we've all been on, and lessons learned, and any cool projects that you might have, in your pipeline. And then you'll leave your contact info, and one positive thought or phrase, and then we'll close the episode out. So with that said, the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
All right, thanks, David. Yeah, happy to. And I'll go way back to the beginning, because my story at Meade Engineering starts pretty young in my life. I'm an Arizona native. I grew up in Phoenix, and I went to Horizon High School. For those of you who are in that area, you're probably familiar with 5A Division School. And this company, Meade Engineering, is originally founded by my father, Robert Meade. And he founded this in 1989, 1990, right around that time frame. And has really been his career and his legacy of building this thing really behind the scenes for the last 30 years. I got a couple of facts about that you'll probably find funny later on in my story. But my first experience at Meade Engineering was when in high school. I joined the company, the family business. I started drafting and designing under his project management team, producing construction document packages for a variety of different types of buildings, primarily in the Phoenix area. I've touched high rises, Class A office space, manufacturing facilities, industrial facilities, and it was all focused on the electrical design of these particular buildings. And I started young, and I worked in all through college as well. I went to Arizona State University. However, most people would think that, oh, well, you must have went to engineering school. And the fact is that I didn't. I started out exploring both the engineering school and the business school, and I just felt more at home in the business school. That's where I was passionate. That's where I wanted to focus my time and energy. So I ended up graduating from ASU with a degree in economics, and I worked at Meade Engineering the whole time. I mean, truth be told, I stacked all my classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I worked Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturdays because the company, there was a lot of work going on. We were doing a lot of stuff. And it was also an interesting time too, when some of the IT infrastructure, the data center world, was really starting to pick up about that time that I was in college. So that's where Meade Engineering really started to gain some more and more traction. And it's really been like that for the last 10, 15 years. We thought it was busy then. Well, today's a whole different story.
Oh, yeah.
On what that looks like. And so the interesting part of this story is a year after college, I left Meade Engineering. I decided that it was time for me to go cut my own trail, make a name for myself in an area that at that moment I found to be most interesting. And that was financial services. I went to school for economics, and I decided I was going to go. I didn't care who hired me. I just wanted a job somewhere in financial services. I was interested in investments. I was interested in capital. I was interested in the economy, and I really just wanted to get started. I ended up going and working for Charles Schwab here in Phoenix, and I went through their whole broker trainee program, became a licensed investment advisor, working directly with clients, doing financial plans and helping them build out their portfolios and set themselves up for retirement. It was actually a really enjoyable role. I thought I was going to be there for a couple of years and then go start my own investment firm, and that was going to be who I was for the rest of my life. But then, I think because I'm a glutton for punishment, I decided to go back to grad school, and I was really excited. I kind of did it on a whim, thinking, you know what, I got done with my investment licenses. That wasn't enough. And in terms of education about how everything works in business. And I applied to Pepperdine University. I got into their fully employed MBA program. And for the next 2 years, that was it. So I wasn't leaving the Schwab at that point. It was like, I got to hammer this degree out. And I was able to finish that up. Of course, after 2 years of working with clients directly as an investment advisor, I get done with the MBA, and that changed my whole perception on what I wanted to do with my career. I made the decision to go into corporate finance at Schwab. I moved to San Francisco and was living in downtown San Francisco. in one of the this group that they call capital stress testing. So we were, I always get funny looks when I say that. People go, ugh. Right?
Yeah, it's stress test. You want to know if anything happens that you're going to have the money that's going to be there to bail you out, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no, I was literally in the financial control house of Schwab, helping forecast what it is that would happen if we had another 2008, 2009 type scenario. So I was really enjoying that. And for me, kind of that long-term view of my career, being entrepreneurial, I knew that I needed some foundation in corporate finance. Like I want to get good at reading an income statement, a balance sheet, cash flow, all that stuff. And I was able to gain that thankfully from Schwab. So then 2 years of hammering spreadsheets, I get the opportunity to go into an internal, call it strategy consulting team within Schwab. They liked my combination of client-facing experience and the analytical. They're like, we think you'd be great working back on our retail business to help grow and scale it. I ended up doing that for like another 5 years. A great job. I was happy. I should rewind too. I met my wife in college. You told me to mention my, I'm like all career. But yeah, I met my wife in college. She was the same major as I am. She works in banking and financial services. So that was really another thing that kind of kept us like in that together. She moved with to San Francisco with me as well. She was able to relocate with her job. And yeah, we really got to enjoy the Bay Area, everything from Napa to Half Moon Bay, Lake Tahoe. It was really just an amazing time in our lives. But fast forward a little bit, and during this whole time, Meade Engineering, kind of bring it full circle. Meade Engineering is growing, like kind of from underneath it. And my dad is approaching the time in his life where he's like, I'm ready to retire. I'm ready to, yeah, like it's like I want to go enjoy my life. And he's worked really hard for everything that he has. And I have always kind of, anybody who's been in, I think, in a family business kind of knows, like in the back of your head, it's like there's this like obligation. Do I do this? Do I just do what it is that I'm doing now? And or maybe sometimes the relationships between the family members isn't there, and that opportunity doesn't come to fruition. But fortunately, with my dad knowing my financial background, he trusted me to kind of help talk through potential exit options for Meade Engineering. What does that look like? Do we sell it? If we do, what's it going to be worth? Do we just shut the doors and and give everybody a portion of the proceeds and then have a nice day, be on your way? So we're talking, and as we're going through this was like over the course of like a year and a half, like literally. And right around that 2020 2021 timeframe is when those conversations started to become more frequent, right? Because Meade Engineering does a lot of data center work, and that during that time frame, that area of the economy did not slow down. That only got more intensified. And so he's going, man, I need an out. I need an out. And I talked with my wife multiple times, and I said, hey, I think I need to approach my dad. I think I need to have a serious conversation with him about leaving my post here in San Francisco, giving up, the career, not giving up, but trading off for the career that I've built here, and helping Meade Engineering get back on the track to ride this wave that we're currently on. And we both agreed it was just the right thing to do. It just felt right. The timing was right. Everything that had led up to this point in my life, it truthfully felt like I was prepared for it, right? The corporate experience, the finance experience, the strategy experience, and having actually done this work as a young kid in high school and college. So I finally approached my father, and he was very thankful for me to approach him. And bless his heart, the thing that he was most concerned about was me if something didn't work out, that I had somewhere to go back to. He's like, I don't want you to give up what you've worked for, and be left hanging if something here doesn't work out. So I was like, look, Dad, corporate America is going to be here forever. I promise you, right? This is an opportunity of a lifetime for us. This is an opportunity to create the legacy that you deserve. This is an opportunity to keep this high-performing team intact. Here's the plan. And I laid out that game plan for him for multiple years. And I said, and we're like, okay, let's do this. And I rejoined just about 18 months ago. And since then, we have been literally on fire, like in a good way from a growth standpoint. I mean, we have refreshed our brand. We have hired lots of new people. We've expanded into new markets for talent. And our client, I mean, thankfully, because even our clients were like, hey, we've been working with you for decades, for years. What's next? Are you going to be here? Kind of thing, right? And when they finally, and this was really, really important to me and made me feel so good and appreciative of this situation, was when I came back, there was this resurgence of confidence in the company to say, all right, Meade Engineering, MEI, this team's going to be here. We can continue to do what we're doing and invest and grow together and scale. And that's exactly what we've been doing. One little funny thing I'll add back to the family side of this is, so 2 weeks after I agreed to come back to Phoenix, move to Phoenix with my wife, change jobs, I found out she was pregnant.
Oh, cool.
And so we've been blessed with a young boy who is happy, healthy, and he is now 7 months old. But literally 2 weeks, I was like, man, when it rains, it pours. Taking the biggest job in my life, moving states and locations.
Everything's happened for a reason,
I know, and that exactly. And it's like, we didn't have any family up in the Bay Area. So 2 weeks after this happens, I'm moving back to Phoenix, where I'm from. And now we're having a kid.
Now you got someone who will help you with diapers, You got built-in babysitters, grandpa and grandma, right?
Yeah, I got the support system around here, and so it all really worked out. And so I've got a brother and a sister as well. I didn't mention that. They both worked in and out of Meade Engineering for on and off, but they're now doing their own careers and pathways, both entrepreneurial. No surprise. I think it kind of just, apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Sure, yeah.
In that sense. And
I was going to say, you and I, listen, I was an economics major too. I was political science. I had a double major. I went to University of Denver. Anyway, I did the family gig. My family's been in demolition recycling since 1888. Fifth, sixth generations. I was named after my great grandfather, Daddy Dave Pollock, and my father was in upholstery. My mother's side, they were in construction, basically. And I grew up down at the scrapyard and all that stuff with my cousins, and now they're running the business. And I did my stint and gave up that. And my dad passed away. My mom got remarried. My stepdad was a jeweler. I got GA certified. I built some jewelry stores, and I decided I didn't want to do that. So I gave up all the family businesses. And then here I am. I'm still in construction. I'm still a builder. I just build it. I'm not doing steel or whatever. I'm doing paper ink, but now I do it digitally. But I build this every month. I'm proud of it. I built this. And so it's amazing all the things that you learn through your life. And listen, so many companies that you did where, like myself, I gave it all up and I just wanted to make my own name. And but the exit strategy, my parents, I've been around 25 years as a publisher, and they were bugging me about, what's your exit strategy? What are you going to do? And what happened to my stepdad is he had three in the jewelry business. He had two daughters and a son. One was an arbitrager on Wall Street. The other one was married to a doctor, plenty of money, and the other daughter was married, Anyway, no one wanted the business. So after 50 years, he finally just shut the door. And that's what happened. I mean, a lot of companies go through this. They don't think about the exit strategy and, how am I going to take on the legacy and all of these things, especially in construction. You look at all the contractors, or your plumber, your electrician, they don't have any kids. What are they going to do? Who are they going to give it to? It's a big issue. And I see where you're coming from, because I did that same gig. I was like, you know what? I want to go do my own gig. I don't want to be behind the jewelry core. I don't want to move back to Philly. And I know they're all having a good time running the business, but it just wasn't my gig. And even when my time after I did my time at Levitt's with the management training program, it was time for me to go to Hickory, North Carolina, where there was like one restaurant and one hotel. It was in the late 80s. It was like during the recession, where it was 18% interest rates. Okay.
Yeah.
Not 18%. And people weren't buying sofas or, club chairs. And I was like, I just don't think furniture was my bag. So, I had given it, and their whole plan was my cousin and I were going to run only the sons could come in. So they wanted us to run the business. And so I went through that whole ordeal. It's like deja vu. I've heard this story. Oh yeah, it's me. And, but full circle, all the things that you did at Schwab and all that made your dad's decision to maintain what he had built and to continue his legacy. And now maybe your son, as he grows up, he might go out, but then you can bring him back. Like my son, I told him, I said, look, I'm not hiring you. You got to go out and work and get fired, make your mistakes or whatever. And then you can come back if you want to be a publisher or whatever, we can talk about it. But, at the time I said, look, you got to go do your own thing. He's at Boeing. He went to FA mechanic school trade, and now he's working on $350 million 787 airplanes. And, so he's doing his own gig. And, but I get that, and listen, even though over the last 3 years of the roller coaster we're on, so many companies have told me that they have had the best years of growth, from, just growth and revenue and hiring new talent to continue, because it's just been a learning experience for everybody. I've learned more about my own business from going to print face to digital, just like you guys have done. And everybody, if they had more PMs and superintendents, they probably could have done more business, but they just weren't out there. And you can't find them. So labor's an issue, or finding skilled labor, depending on what you're doing. So what a great story. And I was in the labor economics. That was like kind of my specialty. I wrote my 50-page paper on economic of Burma, I think it was. I forget way back when, but people are like, what are you doing in econ? What do you become a lawyer? Because that's what people do with their econ. They become lawyers, or and I was like, I don't know. It sounds cool to me. The Loeffler curve and supply and demand. Anyway. But it's what an exciting story. So let's fast forward. So over, you look back, 2020 January, cranes all over the place. Things are just low unemployment. Everybody's making money. I mean, the country is on fire, and all of a sudden, boom, the shutdown happens. So talk about how you guys weathered the storm. And now we're 3.5 years and we're still kind of talking about it, but there's still little bumps in the road that talk about lessons learned that some of our listeners out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk would find of interest, and maybe they might say deja vu. Yeah, we were thinking the same thing. So
no, absolutely. Boy, that moment, it was I think, well, luckily the leadership, I think, at Meade Engineering was tenured, right? So that was really, I think, from a stability standpoint. And hey, we've been through 2008, 2009, that this is new. This is going to obviously be something that we've got to contend with. But I think that there is a heavy dose of optimism, regardless of the fact of what was in front of us, that we will get through this. So I think that was one thing that I just want to start with from the get-go, that this team's been together for a long time, and it was like, all right, we're going to figure this out, right? But let's do it. But we're in office type of place, right? This wasn't an office that was already kind of dispersed and remote and people working. So And there really were there's a lot of good in terms of modernization of the way that we work that came out of 2020. Some of the things that just needed to go, the amount of printing we were doing on construction plans, the amount of ink we were buying and using, the lack of utilization of things like Bluebeam and digital signing, that stuff was all there, but nothing had forced us to do it, right? And we're now using things like the Studio Cloud version for simultaneously marking up, construction documents so red lines can be picked up by our drafters and things like. I mean, that might have taken another 5 years, who knows, right? To push into some of these new, more modern ways of working. Same things with things like being able to prepare ourselves for hiring outside of our home office, right? Again, we're kind of an old school company, right? We kind of did things by handshakes and word of mouth and trust. That's what Meade Engineering's been built on. And in that in-person interaction, no, I'll come to your office and let's sit down, let's roll a physical set of plans out and let's page turn through it. And, when we're done, we'll, maybe you go have dinner, have a drink at the bar, whatever, and then talk about the next project. But that's not how we still want to do that today, but that's not how it always works anymore, right? I've got to be able to do this with the video conferencing. And I think that's another good thing that came out of that, kind of pushed us into that capability to make sure we were set up. But then again, on the flip side, some of the challenges were the abruptness of having to all of a sudden go from, hey, we're coming in every day, we're having this FaceTime, we're designing together, to I got to do this from home. How do we access our files? Like literally, how do we access our files right on our on-premise server because we weren't set up on the cloud yet? How do we if we do need to come into the office to print something, do I have to come in by myself? Can you be here at the same time? Is it actually safe? And I think all of those things were what really became very challenging, had to be sorted through. But everybody was so cordial. Everybody was so understanding of the situation, regardless of what people's preferences or opinions were on the particular situation at hand. It was, hey, that's you, that's us. We got a common goal here, right? We got clients to serve, and we're gonna make sure that that happens. You want to be here, come in your off time. You've got a key, just do what you need to do, right? And make sure everybody's aware. So I could really attest that. Luckily, at our size at the time, it was just very manageable, I think, and understanding of what we needed to do. But the other challenge that I'll mention on it was in our business, it didn't slow. I mean, I know a lot of businesses got impacted, right? Restaurants shut down.
Oh yeah, it depends what sector you were in. I mean, it really did.
Yeah, we were in a situation where it was the opposite. I mean, with everything that I just described of going to the cloud, more video conferencing, more electronic transfers of information, pretty much every company pivoted towards that in like a week, right? And
right.
And we designed the infrastructure to support those things, right? With data centers, and we designed the electrical power systems to back all that stuff up. So a week after that, it was like, hey, we just accelerated our design timelines and we need to build more, right? Because the demand just skyrocketed. So now we're going through this disbursement of the way that we typically work and the changes of our workflow, and now piling on additional work, right? And saying we've got to do more, we got to build more, we got to build faster. So that it's a blessing and a curse, as I'm sure you know, David. It's like, happy to have the opportunity, but if you don't have the right staff, like you mentioned, in place, and the right people that you can trust to do that work, it almost feels more stressful than just kind of being on a steady sort of growth path that's manageable. And that's where coming back in and making sure that we got a nice plan in place and making some changes to support that is how this all came together. So I hope that answers your question about what we went through.
No, hey, look, once again, deja vu. You don't know how many companies that I listen, when in March of 2020, I went out and bought a microphone. I was going to do these things on construction sites. I was going to go out and
Yeah.
do interviews PM or whatever. That was my plan. And then all of a sudden, I had my 10th anniversary event in Jacksonville in January. I did my first cocktail party. I was doing monthly cocktail receptions around the country, and I did Coconut Grove in February. I was in Milwaukee looking at hotels for my retreats, and then boom, everything shut down. I was fighting with my printer. I said half my circulation's furloughed. The offices are closed. They're not the issues aren't going to get delivered. They're like, Dave, you've been a publisher forever. You know economies of scale. I go, yeah, but it's a waste of postage or paper if they're not going to get them. So I bit the bullet. And but I had a digital magazine forever that I just kind of ignored, but I had it forever. I didn't even know how much content was on there. I just had it in case someone was on a plane and they wanted to look at it. I was a print guy, but literally in April of 2020, I sat back. My wife would like be 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd get up and she's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "I got to think." And my editor and my artist were like, okay, let's go digital. We have all this content, blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay. So in May, we went monthly, and I started doing these podcasts once a week. And God, I was awful. I mean, I look back at some of my original ones that I was doing, but then what happened was I actually started getting more traffic on my website. I never had a million people hit my website. When I went over a million, I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. When a million and a half, now I get about 2.5 million people. I had almost
Wow.
29 million people hit the website last year. And and listen, and then looking at it all, when Twitter was getting get bought, and they half of 80% of the people were fake and bots and all that. I went to my web guy and said, hey, how many fake people are on our stats? I want to know. So we bought the software and knocked out all the bots and all that. And we found out, it's probably about 20-25%. But now I don't have any of that stuff. So when I tell someone my stats, I got 2.5 million, depending on what it is. Those are legitimate people. I'm not gonna say it's 100%, but these are real people. We have a little code on our site. We can track everybody. But I didn't,
Yeah.
I kind of went from print face to face to digital. And that was a scary proposition for me to not have the magazine. And like I said, I went through it, these just talking to myself, and uh and then my parents, you need an exit strategy. So I was getting bombarded by everything, trying to figure things out. But best decision I ever made. I don't miss the post office. I don't miss the printer. I kind of miss having the magazines. We have a print on demand service. So if everyone wanted to get one printed, we still lay it out high res so I could get the thing printed. But the biggest thing, like here, I was doing Zooms before, but I always talk about this project manager I had, like in the beginning of one of my episodes. He said, construction's like, your fingertip. And then it's just, property management and facilities, and then maybe a refresh. But, I can be online on Zoom, and I can be, I could be in Saudi Arabia, Africa, Europe, UK, Caribbean, and do a couple walkthroughs in the United States all in one day. Before, that would take me 3 weeks to do. And
Right.
now I can, everybody says, "Oh, I'm sick of Zoom," but you know what? It's so much easier if you're doing a construction project, instead of driving an hour and a half to 2 hours to look at a roof curb that you can look at online. You can kind of pick and choose what you want to get done. So this isn't going away, and it's not. And I'm sure it's going to improve whether you do Teams or Zoom or any of the other platforms that are out there. But I mean, even myself, over the last year, I've taken digital classes. I mean, I'm in the midst of just about ready to launch my digital agency, and I'm on this big launch with this software company. And I thought I knew about digital. I didn't know jack. And TikTok. Listen, TikTok for business is a serious thing, and a lot of people don't do it. And autoresponders and funnels. And I just learned I left a lot of money over the years on the table that, so now I'm scaling my business, and, okay, I get 2 million people. Guess what? Down the road, I'm going to have 10 million people a month that are going to hit me, that are going to be able to find me just by using technology and getting things up, set correctly, from an engineering standpoint, just getting things in the right way. If one little thing doesn't work, nothing's going to talk to each other. And so, I get that. And so many companies have said that, whether they were, I look at construction. So many people say, you know what, just, when everything went kaput, people that were in construction, they put their masks on, they got on the plane, they went to their projects. They were troopers out there. I mean, even if you were working out of your house, you probably got more done. Some people just can't do it. They have to be in an office environment. But you know what? But for the most part, they found out, wow, we're more productive. And the biggest challenge is, do I bring people back? Do I let them be hybrid? I've got this big office, no one's in there. These are the, corporate real estate, the occupancy area is down. How are they going to fix that? Well, it's good for construction because they figure out what they're going to do with that empty space, new projects, new brand, new signage. It's a positive. So, these are all the conversations, but you're right on that. Looking at it, you figure it out, but you had to act quick. You really, and the ones that didn't, those are the ones, those firms probably weren't as profitable or becoming more efficient. That kind of, didn't change on a dime. Myself, I just had to make the decision. And but it's been a learning experience. Listen, I'm sure people made mistakes. If you're not making mistakes out there, you're not learning. You got to make mistakes. It's like anything else. I got, my lacrosse sticks. Hey, I had to throw the ball, to get good, to learn how to catch and throw. Running, I could do, but when I look back, it's a blessing in disguise. I mean, it's a bummer what happened, and it's a bummer with 08. I mean, listen, I just turned 60. I'm giving my age away. All right, sorry. But I went to the oil boom in 76. I remember standing in line, every other day you had to go by your license plate. I went to the internet crash, 9/11, the 08, the housing market off the cliff. Construction departments got, gutted, Home Depot wasn't building 140 stores a year. I can go down the list, now this one, the only problem with this one was no one really knew what was going to happen. Oh, it's going to be a couple of weeks. Maybe it'll be a month, but here we are. We're still talking. Here we are, but we're in a much better place, both of us. And like I said, look, you have a bouncy baby boy at home, so who knows if that, if that would have happened. So, what a great story. But congratulations on, figuring all that and being able to keep that momentum and coming back to the business and making your dad happy and letting him be able to, does he kind of still keep an eye on things or, listen, as an entrepreneur, you got to, but he brought you back in, so he's probably psyched, right?
Yeah, no, I think he is. I think he's relieved. I think he's excited. He tells me that often. And yeah, he's an engineer. He's an engineer at heart. What does he enjoy doing? Engineering, right? And I joke with him sometimes. I'm like, you sought out to be a great engineer and wound up with a business that you were getting frustrated running with, or like didn't want to pay the attention that it needed. And so finding that balance now is nice. And so most of his time is now spent really focusing on what we would consider the highest priority engineering or more of those strategic engineering problems that need to be solved. And that's just what he's good at. That's what he's great at. That's why he has the reputation that he has. And so yeah, he's still involved. Thankfully, like we want him here, right? As much as like stay for a little bit longer, right? But we are actively trying to make sure that we put the right pieces in place so that he can lean in and lean out at his discretion, right? That's the ultimate goal. Whatever he wants to do in terms of contributions, I think is our priority as a firm, right? To kind of celebrate him and make sure that he gets that exit that he deserves.
So let's talk about the 13th floor and that mystery. Yeah. I want to know about. So give me your take on it.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing. When I was talking with my agency about potential interesting things in this industry, this 13th floor myth came up, and it seems like since we've been talking about it, I've been staying in hotels like around the country and stuff, and I'm like, why does it seem like all of these don't have a 13th floor now that I've been talking about this recently, which is kind of funny. But it's a fascinating thing, and I can really attribute it simply to the phobia of the number 13 that goes way back, I think, to the 1800s. Is some of the first documentation of folks avoiding the word or the number 13. And it has transcended and been a driver of design in some cases in the construction world. And it's really dependent on who's the owner, who's the developer, who's building this place, and do they have that phobia? And if they do, they will tell their architect and their design team, there's not going to be a 13th floor.
No 13 coming in my building, man. No way. Right.
Not a chance. And I recently read this quote about this from one of the Marriott hotel founders, and it was the first thing I learned was never go to the 13th floor. That was just like, building thousands of hotels around the world is just so interesting. So, like from a design standpoint, okay, you don't want to give me the 13th floor. Let's say it's a reno too, and the new owner comes in, and there is a 13th floor, right? Like the person before you didn't care, probably didn't even know that this was a phobia. What do we do now, right? We've got this space in the building. Are there some things that we can do to make purpose of this versus have an even more creepy empty space on the 13th floor in the middle of a building? So typically mechanical systems find a home in these high-rise buildings on the 13th floor. You've got to stagger them throughout the building anyways, right, in a high-rise. So you wind up slotting them in on that floor. And maybe those who need to go and maintain that equipment, the facilities management team will have a special key in the elevator that'll take them to that shadow floor on number 13, so that they can still have access. But any, guest or employee that's utilizing that space wouldn't have any direct access to that 13th floor. Other things we've seen is you just simply rename it, right? You've got like, oh, this is the mezzanine, or this is the plaza level, or this is the pool deck in that high-rise building, just so that number 13 isn't in people's face. And what's even more interesting about it is, so we've got this phobia. It's changed the way we've designed some buildings, in America and around the world. But apparently it also impacts the potential financials situation of these builds. If you've got a luxury condo high rise, your number 13 condos are going to be in less demand and sell for less money than the rest of the building, right?
Yeah, because the buyers aren't going to want to be, hey, I don't want to be on the 13th floor, man.
On the 13th floor. It's like, okay, so now you've got a financial incentive for owners and developers to say, well, I'm not going to, that could bring down the value of the whole building because the comps on the 13th floor are going to be less, even though they're the same square footage as 14, 12, 11, and 10. So you've got that double whammy. So it's almost like this like self-fulfilling prophecy that we won't be able to get rid of in our society now because of how many people have this phobia of the number 13. And, from our side, Meade Engineering side, like we're looking to make our customers happy. You don't want it, you don't want it. And we're not going to, say that, you ought to have that. I don't see, and nobody's probably looked at this closely enough. I don't see that because we're doing this, it's a dramatic change in design that's inefficient or unsustainable or less green, because everybody in the construction industry, I think generally is trying to do their best they can with what we have, right? Waste in construction doesn't help anybody, right? And we don't see so much, but I don't think anyone's ever really looked at that closely enough. Like, does it really make sense to be putting mechanical and or electrical systems on the 13th floor of a high-rise building? Like, maybe, but I think about this. It'd be an interesting challenge. You take a design team A, and say, you have to put mechanical and electrical systems on the 13th floor. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have to design around it, design the chases, design the conduits, all the electrical, everything has to go there. And then take another design team B and say, you can do whatever you want. Put it where it makes sense. I wonder who's going to come out with a better design, right? A more sustainable one, a more efficient one. Probably design team B, right? Because they're just going to do, from an engineering standpoint, what makes the most sense. Not tying their design back to a phobia of the number 13. And what's also really interesting too, so America and Europe, I think, are the primary regions that have the number 13 phobia. You go to China and it's the number 4, I learned. And the number 4, apparently in the Chinese language, is very close to the word death, the way it's pronunciated. And so in San Francisco, there are often, because of the heavy Asian population in San Francisco, the 4th floor is like a mezzanine, or it's the plaza. Or you go to China and the number 4 has the same kind of thing, where that number is avoided in elevator banks and in building design. So it's just fascinating to see something like that carry through our culture so subtly for so long and with no end in sight.
Yeah, but look, like I said, when the publicist sent me the press release, I was looking at it, I was like, "Ooh, the 13th floor." I always had a phobia. I grew up in Manhattan, so our building didn't have it, but there were other buildings. Some of them did, but many of them didn't. And you're looking at the number 12, 14. Where's the other number? Oh, well, that's lucky 13. No, the unlucky 13. And so I just thought it was a fascinating thing. So for all you out there, are we right? Is that fascinating or what? I mean, why isn't there a 13th floor? What are you going to do with that space? You just can't leave it empty. So, actually, the dichotomy you just said between team A and team B, I'm thinking, even though the engineers, they're kind of set in their ways, I think team A probably, even though they had to do it that way, they had to come up with some really cool ideas to what to do with it, even though you had to put it. Am I right?
Yeah, totally. That's where you get the pool deck, right? You probably got the views and stuff. That's 13, right?
Yeah. So, it'll probably go on forever, but I don't know if, like, my son's 24. Does he know about, Lucky 13, and, I remember my senior year, I was captain of the hockey team. My buddy, he was captain of the lacrosse team, and I still talk to him. And anyway, his number was 13. And I'm like, dude, man, that's number 13. I remember talking to him. He goes, oh no, man, I love being number 13. It's like you have a number 8 on, you're an 8 ball, or whatever. But 13 definitely has a phobia about it. And listen, I probably would have had you on anyway, but that's really what was the carrot that got me. I was like, ooh, number 13. We can talk a whole show about that, so
Yeah.
But I appreciate you, giving me the background on that, and hopefully some of you out there didn't know about that, and you'll start in your buildings. Maybe you'll start putting it in there, because there's nothing wrong with the number. Plenty of people wear number 13. It's just the reality of it. So
I did.
yeah,
I was actually a lacrosse player myself.
no way. You played lax, huh?
Yeah, I did.
What were you? Were you a midi or a tack, deep hole?
I was a defender.
All right.
Yeah,
where did you play?
So I played in high school, and I was verbally committed to go to Grand Canyon University and play for their college team. And I decided to work at Meade Engineering and continue my college education at ASU. So I didn't go play at the collegiate level. I wanted to, but the family business was there, and that's where, my focus was needed.
Hey, listen, lacrosse is an East Coast gig, and so, you talk to someone from Arizona or California. Now everybody's got a lacrosse team. You can be from anywhere in the country and you can get recruited. But back in the day, I mean, when I was at DU, we played everybody in Colorado, and then we would either go out to California to go on tour, or we go down to Florida and play in a tournament. But before the leagues were all done. But if you mentioned lacrosse, I mean, look at Arizona. You're in the desert. You got a lacrosse team. You got a hockey team. ASU now has a hockey team. They're a big rival with DU. I know it gets very chippy between the Pios and the Sun Devils. I mean, I went to the little rink that they used to play in ASU before they built the new rink. I forget what it was called, but really low unit, and it was a wild scene there. And anyway, but that's exciting. You're a lax man ball.
Yeah.
Man ball. You're a deep hole. I played everything. I still play in the man's league. So I'll listen, if I have to go in the goal, I'll go get pelted. But I'm a midi. I still run up and down. Look, I'm not as fast as I was when I was 20. My son's like, Dad, you're getting slow. And I'm like, bro, man, I've had both my ACLs done. I've been, I'm not 20. You should see me when I was 20. I was I was a rocket. But I look for about X amount of shifts. If I score, great. I've had my glory, But I told my wife, I go, Gordie Howe played hockey till he was, 63. So until I can't make it up and down the field, the lax screen, I'm going to be playing. Same thing on the frozen pond. I'm going to keep playing until my body tells me I can't. So and there's guys older than me that are out there. So I didn't.
Good for you.
Yeah. So it's and those are my old sticks. Those are just from when I'm Brian and Stick. They came out of aluminum. And listen, I always remember tight shorts, tube socks, and wooden shafts. That was the way it was. And yeah, so that's exciting.
Nothing like lightweight alloy, deep pocket. You can't, the ball can't fall out. Right.
So make sure as soon as your son can walk, let's get a deep hole in his head and his stick and play one. Hey, no dinner for you until you go 200 times with both hands on wall ball. Okay, come on.
Right.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah.
So Johnathan, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, and talk about the 13th floor or data centers or whatever, how would they reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. LinkedIn would be a great place to get a hold of me directly. Johnathan Meade, JohnathanMeade. You could also email me at johnm@meadeengineering.com. And I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with anybody who would like to talk about the number 13, data centers, engineering, construction. But those are the two best ways to get a hold of me.
So listen, if you want to talk 13, you want to talk some lacrosse, I didn't know that, or, engineering, there you go. LinkedIn, the best place to be on, in my opinion, anyway, if you're on the web and you want to do business, or email them. If anybody wants to get in touch with me, you can get me at davidc@ccr-mag.com. Listen, like I said, Jonathan's publicist sent me, a PR piece. I look at everything. Don't judge your content. Send it to us. We, very tough to get in the magazine, but we look at everything, and we've got plenty of social media platforms that we can put it on. We post all day long. Send it to us. We send it back to you. Your live URL. You post it. It's a win-win. It helps your SEO, which is search engine optimization, and it could be a charity, it could be new personnel, it could be an anniversary of your company. We look at everything. And I'll come back to you personally, or my digital specialist, Kim will, but we'll say, hey, here's your link, share it. And we love getting stuff. And like I said, I know you've heard it before for all you listeners out there, but if you don't buy a ticket for the lottery, you can't win. If you don't send me something, I can't publish it, or I can't get, if you want to be on the podcast, send me a note and I'll get you scheduled. So, it's all about communication. So, as we end this episode, if you wanted to leave our listeners with one positive thought or phrase, what would it be as we go finish up Q4 and end of the year and go into 2024? What would that be? And it could be lacrosse if you want, whatever, Hate to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say, take note. No, I will say, stay motivated and be accountable.
Awesome. Hey, I listen, I'm right there with you. Accountability. I don't care if you're playing sports, business, whatever, you got to be accountable for your actions. And, especially like right now, I tell people finish strong with momentum and stay positive. And I just saw this thing for my digital agency. I got to put a quote up every day. So I'm living it also. I just do athletes. I just like athlete quotes, but I just put up one for Wayne Gretzky, and he said, you're going to miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So take as many shots as you can. And some of them are going to miss the cage, but the higher percentages you have, especially from lacrosse, if you have a higher percentage of hitting the net, you got a much more higher percentage of shooting. So if you don't take the shot, you can't score a goal. So the same thing, I'm always like, hey, take as many shots as you can. And, and like Nike says, just do it, but do it again. So
consistently, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jonathan, pleasure speaking with you. So, a couple things before I sign off here. Number one, hit that like button. Okay, we want to get this out. About the 13th floor and the phobia and Meade's story. Okay, so hit that like button, and
I will.
and everybody out there in commercial construction coffee talk land, hit that like button so YouTube can be happy in the algorithms and they can find this episode. Number two, if you're in construction, which hopefully you are because you're watching this episode, we want you to be safe on the construction site. Okay, and get home, see your kids, play wall ball, whatever, and be able to catch some Z's and go back and do it again the next day. And even though it's kind of cooling off in a lot of places in the country, listen, make sure you stay hydrated out on the construction site. All right. Once you get dehydrated, you get headaches. That's when mistakes happen. I just got my water. I'm about to put my electrolytes in there. So stay safe, make it home, and stay hydrated. So important out there. Jonathan, I'm coming out. I've got a reception right the week after Thanksgiving. I think it's the 28th. We do a yearly gig. It's like my last reception of the year, so I'll make sure that you get the invite. I look forward to meeting you. And listen, I'm gonna bring my stick out. You still have a stick?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
sure.
we're gonna throw, man. I don't care if it's in the parking lot. Man. You and I, we'll throw. Okay, and I'll put my
I'm
bag
game.
and I'll carry my stick on, or I'll check it, whatever, and we'll do some lax throwing. And uh, the as far as everybody out there, listen, have a great rest of the week, and enjoy yourself. Remember, mindset's everything these days. So when you go into the weekend, recharge, get some Z's, and get ready to stay positive and get ready to do it all again next week. But because before you know it, you got Halloween, you got Thanksgiving, you got Hanukkah, Christmas, Festivus, whatever. And before you know it, it's going to be the end of the year and you're going to go into 2024. So, and it's going to go like that. So, with that said, Jonathan, sign off from Arizona. Say goodbye to
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
And
Appreciate all of you listening.
yeah, thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. And I'm going to sign off from Sugar Hill, about 25 miles north of Atlanta, just below the Beaufort Dam on Lake Lanier. And with that said, we will see you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. Jonathan, I'll see you in about a couple months. All right.
Take care, David. Thank you.
Thank you. Ciao.